In this video you will learn how to use GPIO with interrupts and callbacks and how to do it the correct way with flags and keeping the callback event loop as small as possible. Right, so we start a new project in the Visual Studio Code, and I will do this quite rapidly without talking. And if you wanted to have it on a lower pace, take a look in my previous videos where I took it very slow. So let's And here we start by having the first thing that is different. We normally have the as a GPIO input, and then we did the polling. But now we use the same input, but we're going to use it as an interrupt instead. So we left click on it, and we select the GPIO external interrupt 13. And we right click on it to give it a name. The next thing that you need to take care of also is now we know that it's a pull up, so the input has a 5 volt normal, and when you hit the button it's going to 0 volt. So when you then want to detect the interrupt is when it's going from high to low. So that's something that we need to take care of also. So we take into System Core, and under the GPIO we see that here that we have the PC13, and here we have GPIO mode external interrupt mode with rising edge detection. That means that when we release the button, then it's when we get the interrupt, and we don't want that. We want when we push it. So we change that one to external interrupt mode with falling edge, like so. And then we need to do something else also. There is a register called NDIC, and if we open that one we can see that there is an external interrupt, line 4 to 15 interrupts, and this PCI 13 was the pin 13, so we need to have that one as well. Great, so now we can go on the project manager and give it a name. So I call it input interrupt. And we need to then change the tool chain as well, as we learned previously, to GCC and to CMake and GCC. And we generate the code. We can just close this one, and we can also close CubeMX and get back to the Visual Studio Code. Right, so now the work is done in the CubeMX, and we start to import the project into the Visual Studio Code. So we hit this button and open the folder. We orientate us to the folder where we left our project, and I have a working folder called STM32 work, and then I have this input interrupt, and I open this project and I hit open. I hit debug. And then it says, do you like to use this as the STM32 project? Then we need to hit yes. The input there was working fine, so it's loaded it correctly. What we need to do now again is to go to the butterfly, hit that one, and then click set up the STM32 Cube project for us. And this will then open up, and we have the board there, the Nucleo board, and we have the tool chain correct, and we have the project name. So we just hit close, save and close. Next thing we need to do is to create a launch.json file so that we can download the code into the microcontroller. And The file is normally residing up here in the project, so if we open the VS Code, we can see that there are 2 JSON files. There is missing one, and we're going to create that one now. So we do that by hitting this triangle with a bug in front of it, and then there is a text there, create a launch JSON file. And we hit then select the debug interface that we are going to use, and that is the ST-Link GDB server. And the script is made for us immediately. We can just close this one and of course then hit save. And if we now take a look in the project here under VS Code, we can see that now we also have the launch JSON file. We can now just test build the program to see if everything is working fine, and we had this working fine with the exit code 0. And we can also try to download the code into the microcontroller. And when we do that, we can see that this is turning up here, ST-Link, so it's found it. And that part is the ST-Link interface, the rest is the microcontroller board. So what we can do now then is when we have hit this button, we can hit this green little triangle there, and we download the code into the microcontroller, and there is some code, but it doesn't do anything. So it's just to see that the tool is set up, the tool chain and the program is set up. And we can just run the code, and nothing will happen if we hit the button. But that we will make a change on. So we stop that one. And to generate the interrupt, whenever we now hit the button here, the PC13, it was generating interrupts, but nothing happened. So we need to tell the computer or to the program what it should do. To do that, we open the program folder here, and we go down under drivers, and we open the HAL driver library. And we then go under source, where we have all the source files. And then we have this STM32C0XX HAL GPIO.C. If you don't have a C031 board, then there could be some else text up here, but the HAL GPIO.C, that should be the correct one. If we open that file and we go to the very end of that file, ST has been so kind to put a skeleton for us that we can use. And we remember that we put it as a falling interrupt. We should detect when it's going from high to low level. So for that we need a callback. And the callback is here. If we take this code, I on purpose didn't take the weak with me because it's not needed and we can't use the weak part. But the rest we can just mark, and we can copy that one. And we can then go back to our source main file, C file, here, main C. And we go down to the section a bit down called user code begin 4. There. And as we remember, we can put code between the begin and the end. Then it's safe with CubeMX. So we paste that code in there. So whenever we now then hit PC13 or the button, we will get an interrupt, and the microcontroller will then call for this interrupt here and ask what do you want to do. So we need to put some code in here. And as we can see here, there is also this text. This function should not be modified when callback is needed. And that is referring to the HAL where we copied it from. So that is no longer valid. So we can just remove that comment. And instead we're going to add our own code here. So for instance, if statement here. So we are looking for if GPIO pin equals GPIO pin 13. That means that the PC13, that was the button. If that one has caused this interrupt, then we should do something. And we could, for instance, toggle an LED. So we can write HAL GPIO toggle pin, and the toggle pin that we are going to, we need then the port and the pin. and we use the GPIO port, and for the pin we do the same. We write the LED pin, and don't forget to end with a semicolon, otherwise it will get problems for you. So if we now then try to build a program, it stopped with execute 0. So everything is fine here. So now just to begin or to see what's happening, we have the code starting here when it's reset, and it comes to GPIO init, etc. And then it comes to this while one loop. That means that it will come here and then it will stay here and just forever and ever. It won't do anything at all. So unless we have an interrupt. An interrupt then will happen when we push the button, and that will call the event for that one. And then we will have the LED toggle. So we try to download the code into the microcontroller and see if that works. So now the code is running. So if we now hit the button, we will generate an interrupt, and when the interrupt is generated, we will toggle the pin. So each time I'm pushing the button, we will see that we get an interrupt here. And we can even do like so that we could stop the execution here. And we can go down to the here. And we can set the breakpoint. And then we run the code again. So now we are in the while one loop and nothing happened. And as soon as I now then hit this one, we see in the code that we got stuck on this point, so we are going to the fallback. So the fallback is triggered, and we can then run further on. And each time I now hit this button, we will have this trapped in this debug. So we need now to remove the debug again, or the breakpoint. This is one way to do an interaction with the event, to do it in the event directly. And when you have this small change or small piece of code that we just toggle on LED, that might be fine. But don't fall into the trap to make huge programs in the event, because that is bad habit. So events should be kept as small as possible, and I will show you a way to keep it as small as possible for you to still having it in the correct way. So to do that, we then need to modify our callback function. We still need to have the functionality that we are looking for, the falling event callback, and we also need to filter out what is triggering this callback, because there could be several things that could trigger a callback, and you need to address it on the correct way. It could be button 1, then you want to do something, and it could be button 2, then you should do totally different things. So you need to verify which button has caused the interrupt. And that is why we have this question here, if GPIO pin is equal to pin 13. Now we only have one interrupt, so we could actually get rid of that, but it's a good habit to use it, so do that anyhow. But if we should have a long structure here, maybe we should sample an ADC and make an average, and then make some conversation on it, and then send it out on a UART to store it something. Then the event is too big, and you shouldn't put it in the event itself. So this is another way to do it. We go up in the top, then there is an area called user code begin PV, and that stands for private variables. And we are going to enter a variable. And again, this is in between the begin and the end. So this is the correct place to put it. And we put an uint8 variable that we called PC13 pressed, just for clarity. And we initialize it with the value 0. And we also make it volatile, so we have no problems with it later on. So now we have created a variable. Okay, we maybe should break it as well. Created a variable called PC13. Now we can use that variable in the callback function. So we go down to the user code 4 again. So we get on now to the callback function, and we remove this toggle pin because we don't use that one, and then we write instead PC13 pressed. So if it is GPIO pin 13 that is pressed, then we give this value 1. And that is all that we do in this callback. So whenever the GPIO is pressed, then we give the value PC13 pressed. That's all. And then we do the rest in the HAL one, in our main loop, where we do the normal parts of our code. And now let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, here we have the while one loop. So what we do then in our main loop here, in our while one loop, then we check if PC13 is pressed. So if we make this question here, if PC13 is pressed, that means if it's not equal to 0. Everything else than 0 is true. So if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, that is true. 0 is false. So if it is pressed, that means it's 1. And we remember when we were in the event loop, if we pressed it, then we put it to 1. And if that is true, then we do the next thing. We immediately set it to 0. We clear that flag, because this PC13 is called as a flag now. So we reset that flag, and after then we toggle our LED. And then we go up again and see if it is pressed, and it's not, because we just reset it. So it's waiting for the next time. So we try and see if this one works, and we build it, and we program it. Like so. And here we have the code in our program running, and now we'll just say go for the code. So here we have the board. So now we can see we have the same thing now with whenever we push a button, the LED is turned on and turned off. So this is actually a recommended way to do it, and not doing a lot of stuff in the event loop. But sometimes you have perhaps problems with seeing that whenever you hit the button, more than one trigger is detected, because the microcontroller is very fast, and that is called contact bouncing. And that is something that we will look into the next video, how to, and I will try to do some demos that I can actually demonstrate the contact bouncing, that it's real, because if you just click one, it's not one click the microcontroller sees. It sees maybe 10 or 20 contacts, and I will make a demo for that, how you should address it, and on this demo board how ST has addressed it. We will look into that a bit closer as well. In the next video in this beginner series, I'll show you exactly how to detect and to debounce it, this input, so you get a clean press every time. So if you're not a subscriber, hit subscribe now, and also hit the bell so you get the notification when that video is released.